name's Theresa McClure, and I'm with HDR, and I've been doing public involvement in communications for the last couple years. It's my passion. It's what I like to do. No problem, anytime. There'll be more tomorrow. I think we all have been doing public involvement in the transportation industry or the transit planning industry for a long time, and I think we all have stories that are very specific like this. I don't know, anybody want to raise their hand? 3,000 people march their public meeting because they're mad about your transit solution. I've even had somebody come up at a public meeting and sing the national anthem with their belly button. We've all got those stories. And on the other side of the spectrum, we all have this as well. We have nobody showing up, right? So what do we do? At what point do we say, screw public involvement, let's just make the decisions and move forward, right? But we can't do that. So we have to start thinking about the way we think about public involvement, because otherwise our projects are going to be stopped, halted, delayed, and really held up in the court of public opinion or political opinion, and we won't ever be able to ride the great transit solutions we just talked about today. So we have a spectrum of stakeholders that participate on our projects. And typically it looks a little bit like this. Does anybody see, is there one thing that's just not like the other? And it's because we typically do the one thing that brings out only a very small demographic or a very small percentage of our stakeholder, and they're typically all the same except for maybe the one guy with the red mohawk. So we think about this, and I like to think about the stakeholders that participate on our projects kind of like my family, right? On this side of the spectrum, I've got my crazy Uncle Jim, who has an opinion about everything, who's always really loud and angry, and on this other side, I've got my mom, who's just, yes, that's great, that's really good, keep doing what you're doing. But most often, because of the things that we do, we only hear from one person. And in the way that we actually make decisions, it's actually a very good thing. We want this information, we want this input because it's really important to the work that we do. We want to make sure that we overturn every stone and really listen to the people on our projects. But what we're missing is everybody in the middle. That's like me and my husband or other people that actually have very valuable input and oftentimes very good ideas and solutions to help us come up with the ideas that we need to move our projects forward. So, as we all know, we've all been applying great new technologies and techniques to engaging the public on our projects, whether it's online engagement, social media, or other tools, and it's starting to expand our spectrum a little bit more. And really, what we're trying to do is bring out those people that really don't typically participate on our projects because they don't like to go to public meetings, they don't typically engage in our formats. But the more thoughtful, the more entertaining, and the more engaging we can be, we're starting to get that other, not necessarily my mother who just is in support of everything, but that really thoughtful and engaging input that will really help us to build momentum on our projects and keep the public moving forward and engaged on our programs. So we know a lot about online engagement and in-person engagement, and typically our standard public meeting time is that 4 to 7 time period. But analyzing public involvement and public engagement online, what we've learned is people participate from 1 to 3 in the afternoon and 9 to 11 at night, which means all of the information that we have out there has to be boss friendly, so you can turn it off when he comes over at 1 to 3 in the afternoon, or it has to be really, really, really short because of that 9 to 11 time people are falling asleep. And then people are also engaging on mobile devices, which means you've only got 30 seconds to really get your message across because people really just quickly navigate through your information. So what we have to start doing now is really taking our information and making it 1, engaging, 2, dynamic, and 3, something that somebody can watch on their bus ride to work. That means that we have to describe things like categorical exclusion through a metaphor, something that people can relate to. And at one point in our process, we actually decided that the public was really smart enough to understand an alternatives analysis. But what is actually most compelling is if we can actually dumb that down, because in 3 minutes, you've got to be able to have most of the information on your project conveyed in very simple forms. And even now, the websites that we build are not good enough. They're too static. So all of our online engagement, all of the tools that we develop have to be dynamic in a way that keep people on your site. Whether it's you're adding videos or you're adding dynamic content or even adding survey questions that really help to dive the public or the input that you're seeking. And then any of our in-person public involvement opportunities or opportunities to engage the public also have to be dynamic in the information that you're providing. So infographics, really engaging content that allows you to educate exactly about what you're trying to communicate is something that will most likely be passed on and not thrown in the trash. All of this great information and the way people are participating on our projects, especially in the online world, can really actually change the way that we're engaging people in that in-person opportunity. Where dynamic content and giving people the opportunity to quickly engage, roll up their sleeves and help the decision-making process of a project can really help to keep them informed and engaged throughout your project. And finally, we develop all these great tools for people to visit online, but we actually never introduce it to them in the public meeting format. So taking it to them in a place that's not only where they can engage in it on their own, but also a place where they can engage in it with you will help you to bring them along in the process. Ultimately, what we really want to try and achieve and gain is taking that message that you want to create and that engagement that you want to start and build a groundswell of participation by getting one person, your uncle, your aunt, your mom, your wife, your husband, to take that message and spread it to their peers so they start to engage in the same way. And ultimately, what we end up is not the pile of rally signs of the 3,000 person march at your meeting, but ultimately a fair, balanced, and informed outcome that will help carry your projects forward. Thank you.